light casting. Hi, sweet souls. Welcome to I'm Awake, Now What? A podcast investigating the intersectionality of spirituality, healing, and personal development. I'm your host, Krista Ziomara. Rack up some good karma by leaving a 5-star rating and write a review if you're enjoying the show, and tell your friends about it. This week, I sit down with women's transformation coach, Petia Kolibova, to discuss her early life journey that had her grappling with unworthiness and trying to prove herself to others. She discusses taking inventory of her life and realizing she was not embodying her core values and was living out of alignment. She made drastic changes and came back into balance and has spent her career helping people become aligned with their purpose too. She leaves the audience with 3 things to become clear about in order to create progress, healing, and transformation in your life. Hi, Petia. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Krista, for having me today.
Yeah, I'm so excited to have you here. So my first question is always to kick it back to my guest and give them the opportunity to introduce themselves to the listening audience in their own words, and anything you want to say about who you are and what you do, so we have a baseline of understanding of who you are so we can kind of jump off from there.
That's such a great question. And I think it's super smart. Like, give it just to the guests to introduce themselves, because who else can introduce you better, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I love that. And, for me, when people look at me now, they would get an absolutely different image than who I used to be and how I really grew up, because it's so easy to look at my life now and, traveling the world. I recently got married to the love of my life, built a successful online coaching business, and working only with women that I truly love. They're my soulmate clients. So right now, everything looks beautiful, right? Yeah, when I was growing up, I would never believe this would be even possible for me to live and create the life that I have now, because I grew up in a family where I was physically and mentally abused, which led into eating disorder, toxic relationships, and also running away from home when I was 18 and attempting of suicide. So it was a big difference from who I used to be to who I am today. So when I'm introducing myself, it's fascinating, because I don't love putting on labels, right? But what I do really see in myself, it's I was able to find an alignment with who I really am and my purpose, and create really abundant life. So that's who I am, and that's what I'm creating for others now too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really beautiful. And I'm excited to unpack those early stages of like the kind of the suffering we all have to go through. And to see you on the other side of that, I'm sure is incredibly inspiring to the people that follow you. So I'm excited to talk about that as well. My second question is always I want to understand my guest's early childhood experience with religion or spirituality or nothing at all, and then bring us forward to what you sort of anchor yourself in spiritually or religiously, what rituals you might have, or anything that you practice that keeps you really aligned and grounded in your day-to-day practices.
It's a beautiful question. And, my first thought was like, I grew up in like nothing, because my parents were not religious. I would even say that my stepfather was like against religion. He said like it's silly and things like that. And I know that I was always a seeker, even like a very little girl. I would go to the church myself and ask pastor, like many different things, like, Father, why this and this is happening, and why this and how this. And I was like such a curious child, because deep inside I kind of knew there must be something more than just humans, than just, like, this is it and we are like the top of the chain, right? It just didn't make sense to me as a child. So I would be attending the church by myself as a little girl. And then I remember one time I went to the pastor, and I asked him, like, why are like people suffering? Why are people, like little kids, dying? And why there's so much pain? And, he was talking back then about free will and things like that, but it wasn't satisfactory to me. So I just like quit. you know. And then along my journey, I feel like there was always this search and seeking. And where I did grounded myself was learning how to have a faith and trusting in a bigger, something bigger than ourselves, but not putting it name, not boxing it, not putting it a face. It was just the source, the universe, the oneness, like something that is watching over us, and it's a power bigger than ourselves. So that gave me the peace, and that's something that I go into even nowadays. Now I'm comfortable in saying source or God, but it is not religious for me, because I personally feel that when we follow religion, it's a man-made. It's not above, it's not like, not even the right word above, but it cannot never encompass the infinity and the vastness of the one and of the source, because man comes from the source, but it's not the source.
So, my next question, before we get into the work that you're doing, I really wanted to understand for you. You mentioned at the top, that you had some abuse and an eating disorder. I think it's really kind of, if you don't know somebody's life story and you just go, like, if I were to just go look at your Instagram page, which is very beautiful and like well organized and strategic, and the branding is like fantastic and all of that, like all of that doesn't really show me where the fruits of all that labor, right? So I always like to understand my guest's early story as well, about what did they have to overcome to get to this point, and what obstacles and healing did you need in your own life journey to get you to this place where then you could turn around to other people, which I think a lot of us do on the spiritual path. Like once we get to our a really deep healing in certain areas, we feel really obligated to help others do it, as well. So what was that story for you? What was like the early icky stuff that you had to kind of overcome? It sounds like you have a really fascinating life story.
Thank you for asking. Like I mentioned at the beginning, like I grew up in a family that I was feeling like hurt and unseen. And then as I start to like unpack my life in the past decade, I also went deeper on understanding my childhood, in a sense that my mom was dating my biological father, and they were dating for 2 years before they even had the first time intimate encounter. And right after the first time she spent a night with him, she got pregnant with me. So my whole life I was thinking that I was an accident and I shouldn't be here, that my mother would have a better life without me. And mind you, she never ever said these things.
But
She
that's really
always said that.
heavy.
Yes, but she told me like, hey, I never had a doubt in my mind. The moment that I found out that I'm pregnant, I just knew I will keep you. I just like, there was never even a thought like this shouldn't have happened. So it was just me and the story that I have created, that I'm unworthy and lovable, and the world would be a better place without me. And so I feel like my whole childhood, and I would almost say like first 3 decades of my life,
Mm-hmm.
I felt that I have to be proving myself, that like I am worthy of taking up the space. And that was showing up in my relationship. I would settle, I would just say yes to the things that, just so I'm not alone, just so I feel belonging. And I would work so hard, even in my like 20s. I would have like 3 jobs at the same time and sleep. I had like one time I had very soft, easy, thankfully, car accident just because I was so tired and I just didn't see like car coming.
Mm.
I was so tired because I had 3 jobs, but I had 3 jobs because I was paying mortgage of a boyfriend who I find out that it was cheating on me. So it's just the sense of not feeling worthy and deserving. It's something that I had to be working through to take up the space proudly, and knowing that there are no accidents in the universe. And if we are here, we're not here by chance, but because we're meant to be here, and we are here to change things.
Mm-hmm. I think this idea of us creating these internal narratives about what we think about ourselves and what we think the world thinks about us, and if it starts in unworthiness, it can really take us so off track. And I think your story is very much like a lot of women and men who haven't felt worthy, and so they do say yes to everything. They find themselves in codependent relationships or abusive relationships or hurting themselves, and it's all because we haven't, removed ourselves a degree from that story that we're telling ourselves. And I love that you said that you were really toiling with trying to prove yourself as a person and as a woman and as a partner. I think that's a really common theme in life, and I love that you were able to move through that. So when you working through your healing in your first 3 decades, how were you able to release that?
That's an amazing question, and I feel like what made the biggest difference for me is when I was around the age 28 and I was getting back into this dark place of feeling like a fraud, because on the outside, everything looked great. I was working in a corporate job. I was doing fitness competitions. So I had a great pay, great money, great body. I got married to a guy who I knew for 15 years back from my country, and he moved to United States with me. So everything on the outside looked great, like literally. But on the inside, I felt empty. I felt like I'm just quietly dying. And I felt so bad because I'm like, what's wrong with me? Like, people would love to have the things in the life that I have, but inside it just doesn't feel right. And now when I see, I'm so thankful that I had that feeling of there must be more, because I was getting into depression and my eating disorder, bulimia. I was so like heavy and bad, and I was so physically and mentally exhausted. I didn't want to keep going. And that was the moment that I realized, like, I'm again having these suicidal thoughts that who cares if I'm here or not? Matter if I'm here. It's one human more or less, right? Who cares? My family would get over it. Silly things like that, now that I'm looking back. But yeah, so what was the most like important thing for me? It's realizing like I cannot continue doing this anymore. So I started to look for help online, like Google, YouTube. And this was like a decade ago. So it wasn't as easy as it is now. Like now we go and there's a podcast and there's a millions of influencers and coaches and
Yeah.
right? But like a decade ago, like Instagram wasn't as a thing.
Like you had to go to the library.
Yeah. So, well, thankfully we had like Google and YouTube already. So I was like Googling and YouTubing, like searching for like how to be happy, how to overcome eating disorder, how to like stop suicidal thoughts and all these things. And thankfully I found Louise Hay. And she literally saved my life because I started to watch her videos when she talks about self-love and mirror work and affirmations. And through her, I found Hay House Publishing and, Joe Dispenza and Dr. Wayne Dyer, Tony Robbins, Gabrielle Bernstein, all these authors and speakers. And I started to literally brainwash myself, Krista. I started to, instead of having these negative and really detrimental thoughts, I started to listen to others who brought me hope. And the hope was what really saved my life. I needed the hope that it can get better. I needed the hope that there is a possibility of better life. And when I saw other people living it and people that I was like aligned with, that I could trust, that it's not someone who is saying I have an amazing life and it's facade. I did that, right? I put the mask of like perfect life and it wasn't it, but people that I could resonate with, like, Dr. Wayne Dyer and Louise Hay, they had such a huge influence on me. So that was what started to shift and change my life, and me starting to question my beliefs. Like, is this really mine? Is this really mine? Do I still believe it? Is it like helpful for me? Is it good for me? So instead of blindly listening the voices in my head, I started to question them, but not in a way like this is a BS and I don't believe it, because I did. Let's be honest, I believed those voices back then,
Mm-hmm.
but I was able to question them, so the foundation of them started to be shaking.
I know when I went to my first yogic ashram after I left like my religion of origin, the Swami there, one of the big messages she said that I think, resonates with what you're saying and what I did for my life as well is that you have to really monitor what you put into your brain and find messages and information that nourish your brain in a way that supports your own mental health and like your love for yourself. And all of those authors that you listed, I think every spiritual aspirant and seeker has read probably everything from those people. And I think we gravitate to that type of information because we get to the point where you do as well, where you're, I don't want to be like this forever. I know there is something different and possible for me here, and I need to find a way out of it. And I love kind of the imagining people just sort of clawing their way out of their own depression and the things that are holding them back and finding that light at the end of the tunnel, whether it is Lewis Hayes or you or me or Gabrielle Bernstein, to be able to find that light to anchor themselves into and say, okay, I know something is possible and different here, and I see people doing it, and now I have a roadmap. So I think it's really beautiful that you did that as well.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I really feel that we have so many more things in common than different, right?
Yeah.
When you think about it, like we think like we're alone and we are so isolated, but I feel like it's because we create those barriers, and most of them comes from our heart. We want to feel safe and protected, and because we were hurt in the past, we're trying to create these barriers, and we think we will be safe, but the only thing we're safe from is love, right? And is that really what we want to be safe from?
Yeah, it's very true. Well, let's talk about the work that you do. So you are the CEO of Unapologetically Abundant. So I know that you're really trying to help women become empowered and find their feminine flow, but let's talk about what it is you actually do. And then how did you find yourself at the culmination of your career deciding that this is where you were going to take your work?
Oh my goodness, that's a long journey.
We've got time.
Yeah, yeah, it's so funny because when I look at my journey, it's so fascinating. You couldn't plan this out, even if you would want to. I work with several mentors and coaches, and I'm still working with 3 mentors as of today. It's fascinating to me because on this journey of the inner feeling, like I know I'm meant for more. I know I'm meant for more. There must be more in life. So I started seeking and like reading books, listening to podcasts, all these things. And then down the road, hiring a coaches and just like really trying to understand, like, what is my purpose? Why am I here? And like, I am a person who like, I would rather go and try things and know, yes, this is for me, or yeah, no, really, I don't want to do this, than just like, what if this would work? What if this is my thing? What if I would like this, right? So I've been traveling a lot and like studying other languages, and I learned like through people, right? And through my curiosity. I was, I did like a qigong certification and reiki and neurolinguistic programming. I got certified in breath work and energy healing, and I played with crystals, and I played with like aromatherapy, and it's amazing, like hypnosis, meditation, and all these things. And because I was looking for the one thing, because my belief for so very long was that you have to have a one thing and one niche, known for just that one thing. So I was like very unsuccessfully trying to put myself in a box. I left corporate and I had social media marketing agency for a couple of years, and then I shifted into the coaching, and I had so many different labels on my Instagram. You name it, I've been there. Like if I was a life coach, mindset coach, coach, business coach, transformational coach, woman's coach, a confidence coach. It's like alignment coach, abundance coach, like so many, because I was trying to put a label for people to understand me, like, oh yeah, Petia, right? Like, go for her to this. And I find out that good luck if you're trying to put me in a box. Like, I'm multi-dimensional and multi-passionate, so it's kind of not possible. However, one thing that I did find in common, and what really helped me to discover it very deeply, was human design. Beautiful modality, because I tried in the past like million and one personality test. But what happens with me in personality test, it's every single day, every single moment, I will answer differently depending on how
I
I
know,
feel.
yeah.
And then I'm also trying to like outsmart it, like, I wonder what would be the best answer. What do I want to get as a result? And what answer would fit with that? So it just doesn't work for me, right? So I discovered a human design, which is a modality, a beautiful tool that blends Kabbalah and I Ching and numerology and astrology and the Vedic, the chakras. So it's so beautiful because I cannot cheat it. I'm smart. So I try to cheat a personality test, but with human design, you can. There is a minute, an hour, and day and place you were born, and that's it. And then once you get your human design chart, you can spend your lifetime studying it because there's so much depth into that. But through human design, I finally was able to put the pieces of the puzzle together. Like, my purpose truly is to align other people with their purpose and know what to fight for through nurturing and sensitivity. That's who I am, and that's what I do. And it doesn't matter if I do it through breath work or through my international retreats, through my Reiki, through my, like everything I'm doing, whether it's business coaching, social media coach, it doesn't matter. I'm aligning women with their purpose, and I chose to work with women because it lights me up. And I'm meant to live and do things that light me up and that excite me, because then I don't have to go out there, explain myself. I don't have to put any labels on me. People are magnetized to me, and it's beautiful because it's easy to be me now that I know who I am. And I became a magnet for people who are like me and who I can support easily, because for me, it's so easy to see their future self, their higher self, whatever you want to call it, and just create a path for them on how to get there, how to connect. And it's beautiful and it excites me.
Mm-hmm. This idea of wanting to box people up or keep them one-dimensional is something that is so old paradigm. And I love that there's so many people now really challenging that, because we are multidimensional and our evolution is ongoing. And there's such this, like, I would say, kind of resistance to knowing that, like, who you and I are today is going to be very different to who we will be a year from now. And the things that we need to support us in our journey are going to be different too. So I love that you put all of these things in your spiritual and coaching toolbox, and you can draw from them whenever you need to, with different people depending on what they need. I think that's really beautiful, and there is nothing bad or shameful about having all of those things. And I think it's really annoying to me when people are like, just niche yourself in this, that, or the other. But like, that's good and it keeps you focused, but also you have to like nourish those things in you that light your curiosity up and allow you to have a more expansive understanding of yourself, so that you can help heal people as well.
Women who come to me and they say like, yeah, I invested in a coach, and they were forcing me to be who I am not, and that's just not fair.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think, I'm sure you know this from your own experience, and plus the people that you work with, is that sometimes when we go on this journey, and if someone's probably coming to you to work with you, they don't really know what lights their fire up or their soul or whatever, and they're really confused about it. And it becomes a practice of trial and error, which is a spiritual practice in and of itself. You have to try a bunch of things until you know without a shadow of a doubt what really resonates with you. And that whole process is beautiful and necessary, and everyone should be doing it.
No, absolutely, and it's beautiful because I remember a few months ago, one of my one-on-one coaching clients, she asked me, she was like, Petia, how did you know what to do in your life? And my simple answer was through doing. It was for me, it was through
Mm-hmm.
doing, but it wasn't like forcing myself, just go and do it and suck it up and push through it and hustle. I don't believe in that. I did it for 3 decades, and it really took a toll on my health, like mental and physical. I was unwell like all the time. So it's really important to, yes, do things, but also checking in with yourself. Does this feel right to me? Do I feel like I want to be doing it? Not because everybody else is doing it. And it's so easy to fall into this like comparison game, like, oh, she
Yes,
has this.
it's that I hate that.
I'm still like growing through that, because there are people that I'm like following and admiring. And I gotta admit, like yesterday, and I'm really married to the best man in the universe for me. There was one coach that I'm following, and I love her teachings. And she just shared that she's pregnant, and we were planning with my husband to be getting pregnant like these months. And we just recently find out that I'm healing through Hashimoto thyroid. So I
Mm-hmm.
cannot get pregnant right at this moment because it wouldn't be safe for me and the baby. So when I saw someone having what I want, I'm like, oh. And I sent him the post, and I am like, I told him the first thought that I had was, this should have been me. This shouldn't be us right now. And then he answered to me, and then, because the first thought, it's something that it's automatic, right? It's like this survivor kicks in, like your brain just kicks in, and it's just like should have, could have, would have, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's this judgmental place. Okay, what are you choosing then? What is the next thought? Well, my next thought, it's really trusting that everything is happening for us, whether I like it or not, whether I understand it or not. When I look back, everything truly worked out for me in my highest good. And I'm so thankful that so many things didn't happen. Like I'm divorced now happily married. So many things in the past that I was thinking that are right for me and not meant for me, just right for me, I have done them, and it still didn't feel right, doing all the right things and not feeling right. So it's easy to compare ourselves, but how can we get inspired instead of the heavy comparing and judgment, right?
Yeah,
Shift
because you
into,
steal your own joy away in that moment, the peace that you had. You weren't even thinking about somebody being pregnant, but also you have to give yourself a lot of compassion because it's a human moment and we all have those little tiny moments that draw us away from ourselves. And so it's like we got to just get right back inside of ourselves and say, this is something I want and I don't have right now. And I'm going to like celebrate this other person, but not let it steal my peace in the same breath.
exactly like you said, like we want to create more joy and not take it away, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so, with the work that you're doing with women, I thought it was really interesting. There seems to be this theme in the work that you do in helping them clarify and get really solid about how they want to present in the world, how they want to communicate, how they want to speak to themselves compassionately, what healing they need so that they can move forward and achieve the things they want. And even I think you even talk about like boundary work. For you, in thinking of all of those things, what would you say are the top like three things that women today and the men that are listening as well, if they could get clear about, would help them sort of move the needle a little bit further in their life if they're trying to accomplish things today?
That is a really powerful question, and I feel that the most important thing goes back to the basic: know thyself. You get to know yourself. Clarity, it's so powerful. Like once you're clear on who you really are, like everything else will start, coming together. Like the people, the opportunities, money, everything and anything you truly desire will be clear because you clear your path. So the first thing is get super clear on your core values. What do you stand for and what you don't stand for? And then like really taking an inventory of your life and seeing if you are living and aligned with your core values, so core values are super, super important. There's a easy exercise that I use with my clients, and it's just taking a big piece of paper on one side, write down the things you do not stand for. I don't like the word hate, but like there would be very strongly opinionated things that you don't stand for. 20 things on one side, and then on the other side, things you do stand for. So it would be the opposite. If I don't stand for hate, I stand for love. If I don't stand for cheating, I stand for loyalty. If I don't stand for being cheap, I stand for generosity. So you go back and forth with these, having 20 on each side, and then you take a highlighter or different color pen, and you would just choose three things on the side that you do stand for. And when I did that and took inventory of my life, I realized that my life, my business, my relationship were not aligned with my core values. And that was like a slap in the face, because it's like I am saying I believe in these things and I stand for them, but I'm not embodying them and living them. So you just gotta take first inventory of your core values and your life. Is it reflecting there? Because up until I took that inventory and start changing slowly but surely things, I let go of my relationship, I let go of my business. And it doesn't mean that you have to turn your life upside down, but truly just ask yourself, am I being true to myself? Am I being true to my core values? Because if not, it is not possible for you to attract the people who are right for you and the opportunities that are right for you, because you're not being true to yourself. Like, how will God, universe, source know what to deliver to you if you're saying one thing and doing different thing and feeling different thing? It's just confusing, right?
Mm-hmm. And it's energetically draining to be in
Exactly.
opposition with yourself all the time.
It is. Been there, done that. So
Yeah, been there, done that. Don't do that anymore.
no, thank you. I'm over that. So first, it's really the core values. Second is, for me, really, really, really helps me to have a rituals that feel aligned for me, and giving myself space and flexibility on depending on like how am I feeling, because I do have my night routine, I have my morning routine, but it's not fixed. Like, how am I feeling today? Do I want to do my meditation with the brain tap? Do I want to be journaling? Do I want to be doing money days? Do I want to be just cuddling my dog or my husband? Like, what is, like, there are things that are non-negotiable for me. Like, we're doing 32 ounces of lemon water every morning. Every morning we juice freshly 32 ounces each of celery juice, and then do heavy metal detox smoothies. So those we're doing every day. But then how my morning routine will look like and feel like, it's up to me. So having a routine that supports you in feeling good and creating space and trusting that you don't have to rush, whether your morning routine is 5 minutes and you just breathe into your body, connecting with your body and asking yourself, what am I excited for today? What is the one thing I will do for myself today? Right? Like just gratitude. Like those three things, when you start your day with that, it can take you a couple minutes, no matter how busy you can say you are. You have 2 minutes for yourself. If not, like, why you're living, right? It's like you don't have 5 minutes for yourself. Why you're doing everything else?
Mm-hmm.
So creating rituals that feel good to you, it's super important. And then the last but not least, it's really asking for help. Like I used to be really proud, like pride in it. Like, I can figure this out. I don't need anyone. People will think I'm stupid. People will think I'm weak. Like, people will take advantage of me if they know I don't have it all together. And I was so wrong. It was so exhausting to try to do it all by myself. And now I just feel so excited by me growing, supporting others. So I'm working with like an ND doctor. I work with business coach, marketing coach. I work with human design mentor, because it's their expertise, not mine. And so I feel like when I can support someone, like I just recently worked with the astrologist, and it was such a beautiful session. And I felt so happy that I could support her living her gifts, because there are other people who are supporting my gifts. And the life that I'm living, it's, yes, I created it, but it's also thanks to the other people in my life. So hire a mentor, and like there can be times that you are like, well, Petia, I really don't have a free funds for that. That's okay. Go listen to podcasts, read books. You can do a mini courses that usually they range between like $20 to $100, mini courses, and just keep rising, keep taking those steps, but don't do it alone.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love all of those points. And since we're kind of getting close to the end here, I did want to ask this last question. For the work that you're doing, what are some common themes you see in the people that are coming to you, whether they're obstacles or challenges or questions? And how are you helping them, or what advice can you give? Just a very, snippet of what you do. I want to really highlight your level of work here when people are coming to you, and give the audience also some grains of wisdom to be able to take back to their practice and their life today.
It's a really loaded question. It's like it can go so many different directions, but I truly feel that most of the women who come to me, they're feeling that they're meant for more. They're feeling undeserving and unworthy. And there are certain traumas, in their past, however big, however small. I have women who were abused, and I have women who just parents were too busy to spend time with her because they were working too much, right? So I feel like those are the common themes, like knowing that you are not living to your fullest potential and not being aligned with who you really are and your purpose. So when I start working with each and every one of my clients, it's like deeply understanding their past and where they're coming from, and starting to heal that past. Because women come to me and they're like, I want to attract the men of my dreams. I want to, create a business. I want to be impacting other people. I want to make money. But that's like the future, right? That's like the cherry on the top. We got to start in the past, looking why you're living the life you're living right now. So I help them heal their past. We do it through hypnosis, through meditation. We do it through breath work, through inner child healing. So we really start there to discovering their beliefs, their limiting beliefs, what is really stopping them from the past, doing ancestral work. So we work first on the past, and then we step into the present moment and see what are the results she's experiencing right now in her life, right? And what led there? What led into those results? What actions took her there? What thoughts were there? What feelings and emotions she was going through when she was creating these results? So we really look, and one question that I love asking myself and my clients is, if nothing ever changes, am I okay with that? Because most of my clients are not. So that's when we step into the present, look at the results. And when we work on, like backwards into like these emotions and clearing the path in the present, so she becomes more confident, courageous, and really aligned with herself, then we can look at the future. Okay, now that I know confidently who I am, now that I'm self-expressing myself freely, now that I have the clarity, what do I want to do? Who am I? Who do I want to work with? Then we can look at the future and say, okay, like how can we break it back down, right? If in the future you want to be working only 2 days a week, and you want to be traveling the world, and you want to have 5-6 figure income, right? You get to break it down into what is my dream day, what is my ideal day, and then work from there. Because very often what people do, and we do, it's just going into the ant and get overwhelmed and then don't do nothing, right? Because we feel like it's too much, it's too far, is that even possible for me? We start questioning, and then we go back into our past limiting beliefs, because that's known, that's comfortable. So it's really like breaking through the old patterns and creating a new pathways, in our brain, in our bodies, working with emotions. It's powerful. It's so powerful for me to see women literally shifting their lives.
Yeah. And I feel like this work is so important because we're starting so behind because of the way our society structured it for us, because of our gender. And so I think it's really important for those things that you said, that the common themes that you see of like women wanting to have more and deserve more and be more seen in their environments. We're carrying that from the lineages of our past as well. All of our ancestors who never got to be seen or heard or have their gifts showed to the world. And I feel like there's this really deep and beautiful obligation we have to them and to ourselves to say, I can't be afraid anymore, and I'm going to do these things and live into all of these inclinations my soul is calling me toward, and do it without any fear. So I love that you're doing that with women. I think it's really important work.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you. And like I said, it really took me to be able to do that myself, and then I can be guiding others, because I think it's so important to embody our work, right? It doesn't matter what I tell you. People will look at you and what are you doing and who are you being versus what are you saying. So being able to walk that path and knowing that this journey is never ending, right?
Mm-hmm.
We came.
Yeah, there's no destination.
Exactly. There is no end. There is no destination. And giving yourself permission to evolve and to change.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're at the end here, so I want to give you an opportunity to tell everybody how they can connect with you online. If you have any courses you want to shout out, or whatever you've got going on in your part of the world with the work that you do, just give you this opportunity to kind of say all of that here now.
The best way to really connect with me, it's Instagram or my website. Both are Petia Kolibova. That's like where I'm most active. The one thing that I would love to share here is my course, Unapologetically Worthy. It's just a mini course, so I feel like it's an amazing stepping stone, but super foundational. That's why I created it, because all the women who come to me, they're still, wondering, like, do I really deserve this? Can I really do this? So the Unapologetically Worthy course really goes very deep into writing those limiting beliefs and up leveling wherever you are in your life, and really helps you to keep rising.
Yeah, that's very beautiful. We'll definitely put the link in the show notes so people can go directly to that on your website. Thank you for doing that. And I always like to end on a high note with my guests and really check in with them about what they're grateful for, 3 things they're grateful for, either in this moment, this year, this week, whatever comes to your mind at this moment.
It's a beautiful question. And what I'm really, really thankful for this year is that I was able to travel and spend the last month of the life of my grandma, because she was my angel and she's my angel, and she was always my best friend. So her transitioning from this world was really heavy for me, and I'm really thankful that I was able to spend the last month of her life with her. Second, I'm really, really thankful for my freedom to be myself, to have a business that fulfills me and change my life. And the third one, it's my husband. He is just such an amazing human being, and he always challenges me to grow and expand, and still loves me for who I truly am and who I am becoming.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Well, I had a really great time with you and getting to know you and getting to know the work that you do and hearing your life story. I know that it will really impact the listeners and give them a lot of ideas about what they want to change and how they can step out of those limiting beliefs and heal themselves and move forward. So I really appreciate you coming on here today and sharing all of this with them.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Krista, not just for today and having me as a guest, but also for the work you're doing. It's changing and shifting lives too.
This podcast was written, directed, and produced by me, your host, Krista Ziomara, in alignment with Light Casting. Music curated and created by Mr. Pixie. You can find I'm Awake Now What on all social media channels by searching IANW Podcast. Head over to your favorite podcast app and subscribe, download, rate, and review. Come back every Sunday to partake in a new and enlightening conversation. May you be filled with love and light until we meet again.